God, in monotheistic thought, the creator of everything, omnipotent and omniscient, a being who has ultimate control over the affairs of the universe, a God who has no partners, a God with no end and no beginning. For millennia, we have tried to bridge the gap between our world and the unseen. To worship a God unseen with no way of being able to gaze upon this being with our sight must truly be a struggle. So the worshippers come up with a multitude of ways to prove this God, arguments stemming from the universal order to the intricacies of existence itself. Medieval Christendom characterizes a period of intellectual death, but this couldn't be further from the truth. One such figure, a titan of philosophy of religion, Thomas Aquinas. A Dominican friar and a scholar of theology, he wrote an unfinished compendium of Catholic doctrine, the Summa Theologicae. In this text, he outlined 5 ways to prove the existence of God, using a number of rational arguments stemming from the basis of possibility and necessity, motion, to the argument of design. We observe from our surroundings that the world is in constant motion. A leaf falls from a tree, a snake slithers, and a bird takes flight. This motion, ultimately, must have had a thing that caused it to go into motion. An acorn falls from a tree, and the tree's branches move due to the wind. As we can see, there's a chain of motion from the fall of the acorn to the wind's movement. This motion must have had a point where it started, like dominoes. A line of dominoes does not fall into the other without someone pushing the first domino. There is motion. Thus, there must be a first mover, who himself is not moved, which is God. We observe from our surroundings all things have a cause. A car moves because someone presses their foot against the accelerator, and the foot moves due to a series of nerve impulses, which is caused by the desire to use the car. There is cause and effect. I am an effect and my cause is my parents. Aquinas states that there cannot be an infinite series of causes and effects stretching into eternity. Thus, Aquinas concludes there must be a first cause which initiated a chain of cause and effect. This first cause is God. In another form, the argument is presented as all things have a cause. Something cannot be its own cause. There cannot be an infinite chain of causes. This is called infinite regress and it's a problem in philosophy. If there is no first cause, there will be no effects, no existence. But we observe that there is existence. We do exist. Thus, there must be a first cause, which Aquinas equates to God. Aquinas postulates that all things are of 2 categories, either a contingent being or a necessary being. According to Aquinas, a contingent being can be imagined as not existing. I can imagine a mobile phone not existing, and the world will still continue. But a necessary being is something whose existence is necessary, it must exist. Aquinas postulates that if all things in existence are contingent beings, then there must have been a point where nothing existed, since we can conceive contingent beings not existing. Logically, creation from nothing, or creation ex nihilo, is impossible. Thus, there must be a necessary being, something that had always existed, which we all know to be God. In another form, all things are either necessary or contingent beings. If we presume all beings are contingent, there must have been a time when nothing existed. Something, our existence, could not have come from nothing. We observe that we exist. Thus, there must be a necessary being who is always existent, because it is absurd to say that everything was created out of nothing. We observe that in the world, things are gradations of goodness. I have a bundle of shapes on a scale. We see that on one end, these shapes are broken and imperfect, but at the far end, these shapes are perfect and connected, and all that a shape should be. It's reasonable to say that all shapes on the right end are better than those on the left. Aquinas states that in order to even be able to state a comparison between the levels of goodness, there must be a perfect version of that goodness to which all things can be compared to, which Aquinas equates with God. Aquinas adds that in a genus, which is a category of similar things, all things in a genus must be caused by the perfect version of that thing. Since God is a perfect version of being, everything must be caused by him. In another form, all beings can be seen as having grades of goodness. A higher grade of goodness is a higher grade of being. In order to compare things as being better than another thing in relation to goodness, there must be a perfect goodness, a goodness to the maximum. And Aquinas adds, this we all know to be God. Aquinas is a teleological argument. But what is a teleological argument? An argument that relies on the world's innate order, design, and its nature. There have been plenty. Many are used in the sacred scriptures of religion, calling people to gaze upon the heavens and the universe's innate order. But Aquinas utilizes his teleological argument, the argument of final ends. Aquinas observes that in the world we can see seemingly unintelligent things, for example, a plant or a worm that work towards an intelligent goal. A plant grows its shoots towards the sun to gain more light for photosynthesis. Aquinas states that these phenomena cannot be due to random chance, as they can be easily predicted by us. Aquinas postulates that these inherent goals towards something present in these beings must have been implemented by an intelligent being, which Aquinas equates with God. In another form, seemingly unintelligent beings appear to work towards goals. These goals and purposes fulfilled by unintelligent beings can only be explained by intelligent design and purpose. These are products of an intelligent being. Thus, there must be an intelligent being responsible for all these inherent goals, and this we all know to be God. These arguments, however, do not come without their complementary objections. Many of the premises in the arguments are simply assertions to some critics. An assertion is a statement without evidence provided to prove its truth. Such examples are found in the first three cosmological arguments. Many critics disagree with the dismissal of infinite regress. Another criticism comes from the apparent fallacy of the three cosmological arguments, the fallacy of composition. Aquinas postulates that the entire universe must have a cause. Individual things do indeed have causes, but can the entire universe be said as to have a cause? And even if Aquinas has proven the existence of the first mover, the first cause, the necessary being, how do you equate this with the God we worship, pray to, and expect to answer our calls? These questions have been raised and answered Aquinas' arguments, and there are many more. Many arguments for God exist, but not without their many criticisms. One can agree with the conclusion that yes, God does exist, yet may deny the argument used to prove this conclusion. God is the greatest fact in many people's lives, and philosophers, to laymen, have formulated ways to prove the ultimate truth of their lives, to prove their place, and God's, in the universe.